In the year 1882, in the borough of Greenwich, within the parish of Plumstead, Kent, there occurred a death that would draw the attention of the courts and the notice of the periodicals. The place was unremarkable. 9 Layler's cottages stood among similar dwellings where persons of modest circumstance lived on pensions and weekly wages. The household at number 3 had been occupied since May of that year by William Trigelis, a man of 85 years, formerly employed in the service of Her Majesty's Customs, and his wife Mary Ann, who would have been 81 had she lived to see the January following. They paid 3 shillings and 3 pence each week to their landlady, Mrs. Sarah Ellis, whose husband worked as a rider in Woolwich Arsenal. The Trigelises occupied 2 rooms on the upper floor. Their furnishings were their own. Mary Ann Trigelis was described by those who knew her as a woman of good health for her age. She walked out twice daily. She attended to her ordinary affairs. She moved with a quickness that was noted as unusual in a person of her years. Her teeth were white. She kept a cat of which she was fond. She and her husband had been married some years, though it was not his first union. His pension from the Royal Navy amounted to £4,217 shillings per annum, paid quarterly. They lived on this sum and did not exceed it. Mary Ann had formerly kept a small school and received 3 shillings weekly from the parish, but this ceased when she married. It was said of them that they made both ends meet, and that some quarters they had more than £1 remaining, other times only 10 shillings. They were known to be on good terms. Louisa Jane Taylor was born in the year 1846. In the available records, her age at the time of the events in question is given variously as 34 or 36 or 37. She had been married to Thomas John Taylor, who held a position as an officer with Her Majesty's Customs. He received a pension of 5 shillings each week from the dockyard. The 2 couples had become acquainted through this connection of employment. Thomas Taylor and William Trigelis had worked together and were on terms of familiarity. The Taylor lived at Little Heath, Charlton, and rented an entire house which was said to be well furnished. The value of the contents estimated at 30. On the 18th of March, 1882, Thomas Taylor died. Louisa Taylor became a widow. She had a small pension to survive on. The exact amount is not recorded. On Thursday, the 27th of July, Louisa Taylor called at the home of the Trigelises. She told them she had come to inform them that she would take them to Ramsgate on the following Tuesday for a month, and that she had engaged rooms there at £1 per week. She stated that £500 had been left to her, and that she would receive this sum on the Saturday. She did not remain that night. She returned the following day, Friday the 28th, and said she had been to London to consult with lawyers, and that all matters were settled, and she would collect the money. On Saturday, she went away again that evening. On Bank Holiday, the 7th of August, Louisa Taylor came to the house once more, and asked William Trigelis if she might stay with them for a few days for the benefit of her health. He agreed. She was given a place in Mary Ann's bed, while William moved to sleep in the other room. It was not stated that she would act as a servant. She was received as a person known to them. On the Wednesday following the holiday, Mary Ann Trigelis went out walking with Louisa Taylor. She returned with her eye badly cut and strapped. Louisa Taylor explained that she had taken her to the dockyard station, and that some boy had thrown her down. On the Thursday, Mary Ann was poorly, but went out twice to fetch beer for the prisoner. On Friday, she complained of diarrhea and sickness, and remained unwell all day. On Saturday, Louisa Taylor told Mrs. Ellis, the landlady, that Mary Ann was in bed, and asked her to look after the old woman in the afternoon, as she herself was going to receive £500 when she returned. She said she had received it at the bank in P Street, Woolwich, and had placed part of it into a building society. She said it had been left to her by a gentleman. and that the will was made at sea. Mrs. Ellis went twice to see Mary Ann Trigelis while Louisa Taylor was away. She found her asleep. When she drew near, Mary Ann opened her eyes and looked at her as if in a stupor. After that Sunday, Mary Ann Trigelis remained much relaxed and sick. A doctor was summoned. His name was Smith. He came on the 16th or the 17th of August. He attended her for a few days and then ceased. He was called again on the 27th of August. That was the day Louisa Taylor called Mrs. Ellis upstairs and asked her to see Mary Ann, as she did not think the old woman would live the day through. Mrs. Ellis found her very ill and sick. The color of the vomit was a dark green. Mrs. Ellis asked what made it so dark. Louisa Taylor said it was the motion coming up. Mrs. Ellis noticed how very black the old lady's teeth had become. She asked what caused this. Louisa Taylor said it was Dr. Smith's medicine. Before this time, Mary Ann's teeth had been very white. Mrs. Ellis had observed them changing color a few days after the illness began. Mary Ann was sick in the night and often in the daytime as well. The household was woken by the sound. On one occasion before the Friday, Mrs. Ellis asked Mary Ann how she was. Mary Ann said she was no better, very weak, and that she did not think she would recover until she had cleared all that nasty stuff from her chest. She also said that if she remained there much longer, she would be starved. Louisa Taylor stated that Mary Ann was not conscious and that her mind was wandering. To Mrs. Ellis, she did not seem so. She appeared always to be in a kind of stupor, lying with her eyes shut. On Sunday, the 1st of October, Louisa Taylor called Mrs. Ellis upstairs. Believing Mary Ann to be in a fit, Mrs. Ellis found her sitting on the night stool, stretched out, stiff and cold, with her eyes fixed. Louisa Taylor was trembling and said she felt dreadfully frightened. Mrs. Ellis asked if Mary Ann had had any motion. Louisa Taylor said she had not for 8 days. Together, they helped her into bed, and as they did so, she fell powerless on her right side. Mrs. Ellis asked the cause. Louisa Taylor said it was paralysis. Mary Ann did not speak. After they laid her down, her fingers seemed to twitch and move. Mrs. Ellis asked the cause of that. Louisa Taylor said it was convulsions. Mrs. Ellis placed her hand on Mary Ann's face and found it quite cold. Louisa Taylor said she thought the old woman was going. She told Mrs. Ellis to listen, that she thought she had the rattles. Mrs. Ellis heard something in the throat like phlegm. She left the room about 8:15 in the evening. She was not called during the night. The next morning, she knocked at the door and inquired. Louisa Taylor said Mary Ann was a little better, but had experienced 2 more fits in the night. Mrs. Ellis asked why she had not been called. Louisa Taylor said she had managed herself. Later that morning, Louisa Taylor came down and asked Mrs. Ellis to lend her a shilling, as Mary Ann had fancied a little lobster. About 11 o'clock, Mrs. Ellis went upstairs and found Mary Ann trying to feed herself with the lobster, but unable to bring it to her mouth. Louisa Taylor began to feed her with it. Mary Ann swallowed 2 spoonfuls while Mrs. Ellis was present. She was not sick then. About a quarter of an hour later, Louisa Taylor came downstairs with a slop pail and said the old lady had been sick again and that she had put her back into bed. Louisa Taylor went out that afternoon and returned after tea. William Trigelis looked after his wife while she was gone. Mrs. Ellis went up several times. Mary Ann was lying very quiet. She was not sick while Louisa Taylor was out. About 10 minutes after Louisa Taylor returned, Mary Ann was sick again. On Tuesday the 3rd of October, Louisa Taylor went out with William Trigelis to collect his quarterly pension, which amounted to £10, 14 shillings and 3 pint. When they returned, Louisa Taylor told Mrs. Ellis she would pay the 15 shillings and 3 pint that she owed her. This was 10 shillings and 3 pint, borrowed at various times and 5 shillings for washing in August. She said that William Trizelis had given her 9 sovereigns to bring home to Mary Ann, and that she would give them to the old woman to place under her pillow. She showed Mrs. Ellis the money in her hand. She placed it into her purse and said she would pay Mrs. Ellis out of her own private money, as she had drawn 8 from the bank. She said William Trizelis had kept the remainder of his pension, and she did not know where he had gone with it. About 5:30 that same evening, Mrs. Ellis heard loud voices passing between Mary Ann and William Trizelis in the front bedroom. She thought it concerned a drink. The exchange lasted about half an hour. Louisa Taylor was not present. She was out. Mrs. Ellis asked her the next morning what the words had been about. Louisa Taylor said William Trizelis had wanted to take the 9B from under the pillow, and Mary Ann would not allow him to take it. Louisa Taylor asked Mrs. Ellis what she thought of the old gentleman. Mrs. Ellis said she did not know. Louisa Taylor said she had found a letter in his pocket, which had been directed to be left at the post office until called for. She said she had been writing to some woman at Greenwich, asking if he might come and live there after Mary Ann was dead. She said she had spoken to Mary Ann about it, and that Mary Ann said she did not know any person to whom he might be writing. Louisa Taylor said she had spoken to William Trizelis, and that he claimed it was his cousin, and that he would go there after Mary Ann was dead. Mrs. Ellis told her that if she left Mary Ann in such a state again, she would call in a doctor.